Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's edition of SafeDefend Live. Real excited today. We've got a special guest, Jason Sefrit. Jason's the Superintendent of Schools for the city of St. Charles, the suburb of St. Louis. I love St. Louis, Jason. Just so you know, I've got one of my sons and a daughter-in-law live in St. Louis.
Oh, great.
They live in the Compton Heights. I call it the hippie neighborhood. My son's a proud hippie. Adore him, but he couldn't be more different than his daddy. I would like to be a hippie, but you and I go to the same barber, Jason. I pull it off.
I was going to say, I don't think I'm neighbors with your son.
Yeah. I tell everybody my kids live in Compton because it's called Compton Heights. So I like to get the reaction when I tell everybody my kids live in Compton. So just to see how they respond. But hey, really, it is a pleasure to have you. Obviously, we're joined by SafeDefend founder and CEO Jeff Green. Jeff, welcome as well.
Good morning.
Jeff and I were talking, Jason, a few weeks ago, and said we need to get some folks on here that have that perspective from a administrator's point of view with safety, all things school safety, how it applies. I know everybody top in mind right now is the Uvalde tragedy from a few weeks back. And Jeff and I were talking yesterday. We were on a Zoom call with a gentleman and some of his leadership team out of California, and they work all across the country in an education environment as well. And something feels different about this after Uvalde. I think maybe it's a tipping point to where we're going to get to some places where we can do some things. But I'd just love to hear your perspective, Jason, on Uvalde and how that's impacted your district, your overall feelings about that environment. And if you have any insight to your experience with SafeDefend, we'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate you having us. And when you talk about the horrific tragedy that happened in Uvalde, we were in Texas. We were, I think, maybe 2 days or a day away or 3 days away from getting out for school for the summer. And when any of these mass shootings, right, we cannot become numb to them. And I think there was another one last night. A couple of people were killed. But for us, anytime that it involves a school, especially as a superintendent, I almost take it personal. So my first thoughts are, our thoughts and prayers, and I just really, really feel bad for that community. And when I heard of that incident happening, actually, your days are so busy. All of a sudden, something comes up on your screen and says, "Hey, there was an active shooter at a school in Texas," and then I had a chance to see it at night. And of course, we've seen all the information there. And to be honest with you, I take it really personal. It hits me really, really hard, and I get a little bit emotional about it because that could be me and that superintendent. That could be my principal. That could be my kids. That could be my teaching staff. And as a superintendent, it's not about me, but I'm in charge of their safety. It's me. It starts with me. And so that's how real it is for us. And so when we start thinking about what happened there and then thinking about what we have in place with what we're doing, to say I feel good about what we do and how we have things planned and set up, I do, but it's sad that we even have to feel that way or that we have to think about that, right? And so, but I tell you, and I was just telling Jeff off screen, I sent an email or a letter out to all of our community members about this, about probably the day after the incident, and I received really good feedback back from both staff and parents that were just thankful for SafeDefend, thankful for the things that we have in place to keep our kids and our staff safe. So, in a short version of it, very emotional, very personal. We're there to obviously serve kids and have them grow and learn, but we can't do that if they're not safe.
Jason,
our staff as well. So that's the bottom line.
Jason, Jeff and I have talked so much about this, and I'm going to bring Jeff in here here in a quick second. But we've talked so much with Jeff's obviously background, being a site administrator as well, principal himself, before he launched SafeDefend almost 10 years ago now, Jeff.
Yeah.
Crazy, because you're 34 now, so you were a young.
I know, I was just a pup. Yeah.
But the fact that we have the administrators, school teachers, staff, support staff, everybody that pours their life into educating children every day, the fact that this is something that is top of mind right now is just mind-boggling to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our kids deserve to go someplace where they can feel safe to learn. They deserve that. This isn't an extra. I mean, to me, that's like breathing air. I mean, how can you ask a 10-year-old child or a 17-year-old child or anything in between, because, kids watch the news. They know what's going on. I mean, it affects mental health. It affects their ability to learn. It affects staff's mental health. It affects their ability to teach. It's just horrible. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you, and we're in a mental health crisis like we've never seen before, and a lot of that's related to COVID. A lot of that's related to even the political climate. We're more divisive than we've ever been, no matter which side you're on. It seems like there's a right and a wrong, and if you're not on one side, you're ostracized. Having to pick and choose your way through life right now is incredibly difficult. We lost 2 years for many kids of support. Schools were the primary focus of socialization, mental health support, that ability to interact and not only just learn the rules of life, but get support when you're struggling through those. We were unable to meet those needs for a couple of years. And we are seeing the impact of that right now. 2 days ago, Kansas City, Blue Springs School District here in Kansas City had a credible threat. They arrested a kid that was a former student and have canceled summer school now with the FBI involved. And several schools had closed down for the day because there was a legitimate, credible threat for another school shooting, even during summer school. It's daily now.
It is daily.
It is daily now. And we just have not found other ways to really to head it off. And so we really are going to have to be focused on making sure our environments are as safe as they can be for the kids coming in. Kids will not learn if they don't feel safe. Teachers will not want to come to work if they don't feel safe. And they won't be nearly as effective if they're worried about their safety instead of focused on helping those kids come through. So this is a time in history unlike any that I've ever seen.
Jason, Jeff brings up a good point. He and I spoke about this. I can't remember if it was on the air, if it was just in a private conversation, but we think there's a teacher shortage now.
Oh,
right. I mean, the effect this is going to have on young people's decisions to enter the profession is going to be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I don't, I think, right after Uvalde, I think, Jason, I was on the phone with Jeff and we're talking, and Jeff could tell you I was fired up. I mean, I was just a dad in that moment. Like many of us, I was just angry. And I just, and then being a spouse, my wife being a career educator, I understand what that feels like when you sit there and you worry about your spouse going into a building. I mean, it's insanity personified. But talk a little bit about, if you can, Jason, one thing that we've talked about is I'm of the belief that until the parents, until the communities in all the school districts around the country realize that this has to be a priority for them. And what I mean by that is financially, it's got to be a priority. It's got to be something that we say, hey, listen, this is important. What can we do to help?
Mm-hmm.
How can we help move the needle? There's power in consensus, right? There's power in people creating a movement in their communities. I think it's going to continue to be hard. There's a lot of great things coming out from the government trying to address this. But I think if you don't have full buy-in, it's no different than in the educational process. If you don't have buy-in with the parents, it's much more difficult for the professionals to do an effective job educating the children. So do you agree with that? Am I completely wrong, or what? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's just what Jeff was saying. He was saying on the front end of it is how divisive our community is, or our society is, right? And then you're saying the power of bringing people together. And to me, it's solution-minded people bringing them together and figuring out what you can do, right? And I really think in our school district, we're not perfect. We've got issues just like everybody else. But
Sure.
one thing our community does is we come together and we find solutions. And one thing that we have found, SafeDefend is not going to keep some crazy thing happening to our schools. It's just not. Let's just put that out there, right? It's hard to say that. It's really hard to say that. But I can't guarantee that anything crazy is not going to happen. That's what's sad. You can't. Yep. But you can do a lot of things to help prevent it and be ready for it. One thing that we've done is, I credit Jeff Marion, the superintendent before me. I've been there now 6 years, 4 years as the superintendent, but I was with Jeff for 2, and he started that process with me to get SafeDefend in there. And I think once you find a program or you find a system that will help you, and you can get people on board to say, hey, this is what we're doing to make sure that we have things in place to keep us safe. But I also think that's the back end, and also the front end is, what are we going to do about social emotional needs for kids systematically at home and in school? And so you're exactly right, Phil. For us, it's how do we have the whole community come together? And one thing about the City of St. Charles School District is we're very collaborative. So we get our parents' input, we get our staff's input. Our staff, I tell you what, when you talk about the pandemic and a lot of schools shut down, and we shut down just like everybody else did for that spring, but within days we went virtual. In days we had work for our kids ready to go, and then the next year we didn't shut down.
Right.
We've been in school the whole time, and I don't mean that good or bad versus other places, but that tells you what we do in our school district, and it starts with our staff and our parents. And so if they're not behind us, I tell our staff all the time, we can't do anything without our staff. So to your point is, we have to have a collaborative effort, and we have to say, what are our goals? And for us, we have 2 big rocks. RTI, I won't get into that. That's more of an academic system. There's some behavioral there. And then the other big rock is student needs. Well, can't tell me safety is not number 1 on student needs.
Right.
And so collectively, that's what we focused on. And so I feel like we've got a great plan. We got great things in place. We're still tweaking things. And again, on the front end, we're really focusing on how we're meeting social emotional needs, not only for our students, but also our staff. And then also, again, to your point, Phil, how do you bring those parents in, because they need it as well?
Yes, they do.
The whole community needs it.
What's interesting, I appreciate you saying that, because what's interesting, one of the things that SafeDefend's working diligently on is building out their training offerings, right? To have more resources, more opportunities to help do those exact things. We think that, I think what's happened, this is just me speaking as a dad, right? Mm-hmm. I think what's happened is over the years, and I'm just going to say this, and again, this isn't Jason saying this isn't Jeff, because what I'm going to say may offend a few people, but me personally, I think we've checked out as parents. I think we sit there and go, well, that's the school district's job. I mean, that's what they do. And it's almost like, I've always said, it's almost like we've became non-paid babysitters in many ways, in the mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And that affects education, but it affects everything. We talked a little bit, Jason, before, one of the companies that we founded a virtual charter school, and I just didn't end up thinking the model was healthy. I'm saying fully virtual all the time. There's a niche there it serves, but kids need something as simple as making sure they're eating, right? I mean, people don't think about that. But parents, we have a school in the state I live in, and I love sports. Jeff's heard me use this analogy. They spent $35 million renovating, not building, renovating their football field. Okay. Now, I love football. I'm all about it. And I believe in extracurricular activities. And I think we deserve to have nice things. But the reason I use that example is that was paid through a bond issue that was passed. So if that's the case, can't we find resources to make sure that our kids and the people that are charged with educating them are as safe as possible? Mm-hmm. I think the answer is obviously yes. So that's what I mean when I say you can't just be collaborative with your thoughts. That's extremely important. You need to be engaged, but you also got to understand that things cost money. Mm-hmm. You've got to be willing to invest in these things as a community to make sure you guys as administrators have the things you need to make our kids and our staff as safe as possible.
Right.
And so I think there's an obligation there.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more and more. But you've got people like Dr. Sefrit who have done a fantastic job of balancing the priorities, right? And saying, hey, look, safety needs to be up there at the top of our priority list. But it's not the only thing we can focus on, because there's a whole lot of things going on in a school district. You can't just focus on football. You can't just focus on one thing. You've got to have that balance. But when you get people like Dr. Sefrit who understand and can say, hey, look, we're going to make safety the priority for our district at this point in time, and carry that out. That's when you see really, really positive change. And I'll tell you, we love going down to the city of St. Charles. We love going and talking to the teachers. We love going and talking to everybody that's there. They're very appreciative of Dr. Sefrit and his priority on safety, but also the way he balances the needs of the district all the way around. And it's such a different feel when you find those superintendents that have really, really achieved that good balance of making sure that their educational system is effective, and that includes safety, and that includes the extracurricular activities, and that includes the mental health supports, and that includes those layers all the way around. And there's a difference.
Well, I talked to a retired administrator in the community I live in, and we were talking about the differences. And I said, when you were administrator, and he's been retired for 20 years, and he says, I said, what all did you worry about? He said, honestly, I worried about reading, writing, arithmetic. Are we delivering on those things? And he was half joking when he said this, and making sure that our kids that were playing on Friday nights were eligible. He said that was the big deal back then. He said, we didn't have to deal with any of this other stuff back then. He said, there's so much more stuff that we're being charged with. But when you look at budgets, or when you look at things like that, everything being relative and adjusted really hasn't changed that much. So we're squeezing more and more out of these administrators and out of these classroom teachers and the support staff every day. And there's no way that doesn't take a toll. There's no way. It has to.
Well, and I appreciate Jeff's comments about me and the district, but really it's not about me. It's, and back to Phil's point of all the things that we have to juggle these days. It really comes down to, and I'm not just saying this, I serve a great board of education that had won, and we've added a few members here and there the last couple of years, but we have a pretty good core that's been there for a while, and they get it. They understand that we have to have priorities in place. We have our CSIP plan, that our 5-year strategic plan that drives everything we do. They hold us accountable to that. And again, the number one goal is safety. Obviously, learning's right behind there. Right. But when you can break it down to very easy goals from academics to student needs, and everything filters in there, and you have strong communication. And in my opinion, I got a great staff who comes in every day. They go above and beyond for kids every day. You talk about bus drivers and custodians and paras and teachers, you name it. We got people busting their tails every day. We also have a community, and we have a sense of a family atmosphere that they can speak their mind in a positive manner. They can tell us what's important to them as well. And our parents do the same thing, and we listen. Communication is just not one way, it's two ways. So when you've got a board like I do, and then you've got an administrative team, our principals and our staff, and you put all those people together. Yeah, there's diversity. And yeah, there's not every child, because we're a public school district. So not every child is going to come perfectly ready like we think they would be perfectly ready for school. That's okay. Our job is to meet those needs, and we're going to do that. But when you collectively have the majority of your people going forward under the same goals, you can get things done. And my very first meeting as superintendent, we approved our first major project with SafeDefend. My very first meeting. Now, saying all that, Jeff Marion set the groundwork, and I was a part of that as an HR guy, and so we had it ready for our first. And now, you know, now we've got it almost a box. I think almost every major room. So we're back. Now we've completed with our second bond issue, and so you can find the funds if that's a priority for you. And
Correct.
for us, it was. And I will say this, you know, Jeff kind of gave us kudos, and I'm not just telling you that. I don't do business, or we don't do business with people that we're not going to be partners for. I don't look for things. Oh, you can give me that and we're done. We have a real we have a real relationship. Yeah. I can call Jeff. I can call Dan. I can call them. And actually, Jeff, probably next week, I've already talked to our chief of police, and I have a great relationship with our chief of police. That's important as well. And we'd like to set up some trainings here if we can.
Absolutely.
With our staff again. Now they've been trained, but we want to do some more. And so we'll be talking about that. But it's a real partnership. I feel I can call Dan, I can call Jeff anytime, and we're always tweaking things. Our tech department, Phil, I'm just running with it. Sorry. Our tech department really, I mean, they own it more than anybody because they're the ones, and they've redesigned the whole box, didn't they, Jeff? For part of it.
Absolutely. They've certainly, from where we started with their suggestions, and we made software updates, we made hardware updates. You know, and we love the feedback from our customers as well, and being able to deliver on that. So yeah, they've been incredibly proactive and helpful for us.
And I know, you know, I'm not in here to say, oh, you got to go get SafeDefend, but I can tell you, if anybody out there is looking for ways of making sure that you can have that sense of feeling that you're as safe and as prepared as possible for something that is ungodly tragic to happen, right, or anything like that. To me, SafeDefend was the company and the product that we were looking for. And I'm telling you, I've been in education for 27 years. So, and I've been in most of those years, I've been in administration. So I've seen a lot of products come and go. I've seen a lot of salesmen, but I'll tell you, Dan Cole's one of the, I mean, he is, when you ask a question or he says he's going to deliver on something, the product and the company has done that every time for us. And so that's comforting to me. And so when I'm saying this is a product that's going to do this for us, and it does, or if it's not, they fix it and they're very responsive, that means the world to me. And the relationship is a big piece to me, because we're not talking about, oh, it's a, you know, oh, we're looking at, you know, chairs are important to everything else, but we're talking about a system that is in place to help you when you have a tragedy. And I feel like we've got the best system that we could ask for. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but I just wanted to put that out there. So
no, I tell you what we really wanted. We want true perspectives from folks that are living it every day. You know, there's a lot of theory in the world. You know, Jeff and I, we'd rather have people that actually are walking it every day. I do have to say this on a personal note. It makes my heart happy when I hear people saying great things about people that I've known my entire life. The reason Dan Cole follows up on everything and delivers is he had two of the best parents in the world. His dad was an entrepreneur, and his mom, and they ran Cole's repair shop and wrecker service for forever. Bill and them were just incredible people. But that's a trait from Greenwood County, Kansas. You didn't have a choice; you'd get in a lot of trouble. You know, our dads would have made sure we were quickly adjusted if that wasn't the case.
And I come from a very similar camp, so
yeah. Well, hey guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to give Jeff, you, and then Jason, I want you to take the last word, but we appreciate it very much. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, just you know, it's very exciting to have that relationship we have with St. Charles, and you know, I consider Dr. Sefrit a friend, and you know, more than just a client. So you know, it's fantastic that we've been able to develop these types of relationships. You know, SafeDefend is here not just to put a system in and move on. You know, we want to develop that relationship with our clients, and that's our goal, is to be lifelong partners on the safety side and really develop that. So we're excited to hear that from those that have put it in the know. And, you know, in this day and age, SafeDefend, absolutely, we're here to help. So, and from my perspective, Dr. Sefrit, thank you for your time. I know Friday was your day off, and so I really appreciate you jumping in.
That's why I'm in a t-shirt.
I love it. I usually see the suit. So,
well, guys,
and just thank you for having thank you for having me. And I just, you know, the safety threat is real.
Right.
It is real, and I live it every day as a superintendent. And so when I can have relationships like I do with SafeDefend and Jeff and his group, and also I know the product that's in place to help in the training there, and my staff and my parents and my students feel that, and they feel safe. That's the bottom line, and we're just going to keep going. And I don't know if society and what we're facing is going to get any better. But I can tell you, in the City of St. Charles School District, we're going to keep serving kids. We're going to keep loving kids and doing everything we can to keep them safe and learning. And that's not cliche. That's truly how we feel.
Absolutely.
On behalf of my board, my principals, my staff, my students. I mean, it's just a fantastic community that just keeps working together, and we're going to get through it. And we're going to keep these kids safe and these staff safe. I mean, that's number one thing on my heart. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank
Doc,
you.
we need more people like you out there. So if we could clone you, we'd be a lot better off.
I don't know if too many people would tell you that.
I fall in that category too. They say little doses.
Yeah, I don't know if there needs to be two of me, but that's okay.
Well, hey guys, we appreciate it very much. It's always fun to do these calls, and Doc, we'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yeah.
We'd love to. One of the things that I think would be really cool to do, I'm just saying this out loud, is to get a guest panel of 2 or 3 different superintendents and just have them come in and share, get some teachers' perspective, on what this means to them. But we got, to your point, we got to continue to work hard and do everything we can to give them what they deserve and what's needed. So with that, we appreciate everybody joining us on SafeDefend Friday live, and look forward to seeing you next week. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Jeff at safedefend.com. Thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks.